Hello, bookworms. Welcome back to the Book Hangover Club, where the only cure is another great read. In today's video, we're going to be getting into a hockey romance. I believe it's really popular right now because of the book by Rachel Reed that was adapted into a television series, which is called Heated Rivalry. If I'm being honest, I have not read that book, and I also haven't watched the show either, so I can't really speak to that if it's good or not. But I think that is why right now hockey romance is kind of the thing. So that's what we're going to be getting into today. So sit back, relax, grab yourself a snack. I've got me some gummy worms and a seltzer water, and let's get into these book recommendations. The first hockey romance I have for you guys is Gravity by Tal Bauer. This book was short and sweet. Um, Honestly, it felt short and sweet, even though it's not necessarily a short book. I think Tal Bauer's writing style immediately pulled me in to the story from the beginning. The emotional connection between the characters felt natural and layered. I love the yearning and the slow build of the relationship. The By Awakening was handled beautifully and felt very authentic. I appreciated the message that, love doesn't have to fit into a predetermined box. The romance felt hopeful without feeling unrealistic. I was fully invested in both characters by the end of the book. And I would say my only complaint is that I wanted more, which I don't really feel like is much of a complaint. Say in this book, my favorite character. Honestly, I don't know. I really did love Hunter, and I also loved Bryce as well. I think I loved both of them equally. I definitely wish that the book was longer. I definitely wish that we, as the reader, were kind of able to get into the dynamics of their family. Um, what Bryce's family thought of Hunter when they met him for the first time, or what his family, how they felt when Bryce came out. I definitely wish the book was longer. It felt like such a short and sweet story, but the book isn't necessarily short. Overall, this is a great read. The book Hangover verdict on this book is a must read. Next on our list is Back in the Game by Kai Jennings and Casey Cross. So, yeah, I mean, I unexpectedly connected with the Sunshine character. He had a very cheerful personality, but I really felt like I connected with him because I could tell that, that cheerful personality was more of a mask for, deeper emotional pain. I wasn't sure if I was correct, but that was just the inkling that I had when I was introduced to him. I really loved the emotional support between both characters. It felt very genuine. The pacing really allowed the relationship to develop naturally. I would definitely classify this as a slow burn. There were so many instances where I thought, like, okay, this is like it's gonna happen now, whether it be a kiss or something more. There were definitely instances where I was like, it's gonna happen now, and it wouldn't happen. And I'd just be like, let me keep reading. And then maybe 50 pages in, and I'm like, oh, it's gonna happen now, and nothing. Let me keep reading. Happily reread this one over and over. Both characters experienced meaningful emotional growth throughout the book. I really enjoyed the fact that, like, in one instance, it would be Jet being there for Harrison. And then there'd be another situation, and it would kind of be like the roles would be reversed, like that rock that they needed, that the other person needed to lean on to get through whatever it is that they were going through. There were definitely instances where I wanted to reach into the book and shake Harrison, but I will give him a lot of grace because I feel like he went through a very, very traumatic experience. As far as Jet goes, there were definitely instances where not where I necessarily wanted to shake him, but like I don't know, just instances where I just wanted him to kind of just stand up for himself. Understood why he would give, these people who didn't necessarily deserve it so much grace. I hated that he would do that, but I understood why he did what he did. But yeah, no, this book definitely gives me all of the feels, whether it's romantic or just, kind of being sad for the characters for the things that they went through and the things that they had to endure, and also being proud of them for coming out on the other side. This was definitely a great read. I don't know how many books are in the series. I know there's an additional book coming out later on this month, but I mean, this is definitely shaping out to be an amazing book series, and I honestly cannot wait to see what comes out next. Our next book recommendation is again by Tal Bauer. I'm not gonna say Tal Bauer never misses, but I read a ton of his books and they're just all 5-star reads. The Fall, features an alternate timeline slash coma premise that hooked me immediately. This is another one of those books where I did not read what it was about. I just kind of, I love Tal Bauer. Um, I saw that this book had come out. I went, I got it, I read it. I didn't even care what it was about. I was just kind of hungry for another good read, which of course is the cure for a book hangover. Anyway, um, honestly, this book kept me on my toes. I definitely kept waiting for the other shoe to drop, which is not a great feeling to have. It definitely kept me reading, even though I was like dreading that every page. I was dreading it because I knew that it was coming, but I couldn't stop turning the pages. I could not stop reading. It was just that good. This book definitely features a soulmate aspect, which is one of my favorite parts of the book. I think this book plays with a lot of, I would say, unique themes, um, especially unique in the sense that, well, these are not themes that I would normally associate with a hockey romance book. The emotional growth in this book felt just as important as the romance. Like I said, the timeline aspect kept the story fresh and unpredictable. I feel like Tal Bauer balanced the emotional moments with suspense perfectly. This is definitely an unforgettable read. And as far as the characters go, I had to choose a favorite. I think Tori would be my favorite. I really enjoyed watching him rebuild himself and just kind of becoming confident again. And I could only imagine what it would feel like to, get to a place that you've always dreamed of. And, at any moment you might go to sleep and wake up and be back where you were before you had everything that you had. So I definitely give him a lot of grace when it comes to how he handled being in that situation. I can't say that I would have handled it any better than he did. This is definitely an interesting read for sure. I highly recommend this book. Sorry, I just love this book so much. I have more to add. I think this book is indicative of how powerful your mind is. This book is so good. I love the play on, like, different realities, and, essentially him experiencing this reality and having it ripped away pushes him to a point where he's now off his game, at risk of losing everything, and just down bad and suffering from, addiction to kind of mentally escape from what it is that he experienced. I mean, that's such a crazy experience, and just talking about it sounds crazy. Imagine if that happened to you and you, well, first, you don't really even have anybody around you, but imagine if you went to a therapist and told them that, like, they'd probably medicate him. So, when he gets traded to a different team and now he's back with this person that he thought he'd lost forever, he has to kind of work on himself in order to get to a place where he's healthy enough to even think about being in a relationship with this person. I feel like that was a very healthy representation of what, love and a relationship should look like. I probably did not explain that in a good way, but I I love this book. It's just so good. You have to read it.
The next book we're going to get into is The Rest of the Story by Tal Bauer. I would definitely classify this book as a slow burn. If I'm being honest, I definitely find myself coming back to this book whenever I am in those situations where I don't have anything good to read, or when I'm in between books and I haven't found anything, I will just go into my library and find a book that I've already read. And this is definitely one of those books for me. I think I've probably read this book 4 or 5 times, maybe more than that. I'm definitely giving myself a little bit of grace. I'm sure it's probably been way more than that. But I mean, overall, this is a really, really great book. The fact that I've read it so many times is indicative of how good it is. I really love the characters. I really love how, I mean, it's Tal Bauer and his stories are very engaging, very in depth. He has a way of making you fall in love with his characters. My favorite character in this book was Shay. I definitely had a soft spot for Morgan as well, but Shay was definitely my favorite character. There were definitely instances where I felt like I just wanted to shake Morgan. I just wanted him to come to his senses, and I wanted them to get together a lot sooner than they did in the book. But I understood why Morgan had the reservations that he had. Something that I really loved was the fact that, Shay had kind of set these rules in place for himself, these things that he wanted before he crossed that line with his partner, marriage being one of those things. And I love the fact that he never compromised his morals. Of course, there were instances where he wanted Morgan so bad that he was willing to compromise his morals. And I think that's the thing that made me really, really like Morgan a lot, is the fact that he would not allow Shay to compromise his own morals or the rules that he had set in place for himself. And I really enjoyed that. I really enjoyed that Morgan was kind of just like, this is what you want, and you've waited this long to find someone in the hopes that you'll be able to cross that line with them when the time comes, and I'm not going to help you betray yourself, essentially. Like, make me work for it, make me prove that I am worthy of having you. And I just love this book. It's just so good. I love all of the characters. I loved getting to know all of the characters on a deeper level. I loved, them kind of getting their second chance and them having the ability to open up and show us as the reader who they really were and who they were as a team, as well as like the potential that they had to live up to their own standards. Like they showed us that they had the potential to be great hockey players. And that's something that I really enjoyed. Overall, this was a really good book, an amazing read. I feel like if you read this book, it will be really hard for you to put this book down. These are two characters that I definitely think about often. And I just always come back to this book because it's so good. And I know that if I read it, it's gonna give me everything that I need and so much more. And I swear every time I read it, every single time, it's almost like I'm discovering something new. Even though I've read it like 6 times, it's like every time I read it, I'm discovering something new or something more to just fall in love with. And I also want to add that, when it comes to Morgan, something that I really enjoyed was I feel like even though he was kind of frustrating at times, I understood why he was so hesitant. And I think that he was a very good depiction of what it looks like, you know, when a child experiences abuse, or has to kind of take a back seat and watch their parents either be abusive towards each other or one parent abuse the other. And you know, they definitely, as a kid, you know, you're definitely going to internalize that. And I understood his fear of not wanting to be like his father. I don't think it was necessarily the fact that he wasn't ready to settle down with anyone. I don't think that's the reason why he didn't. I don't think that's the reason why he didn't jump in head first with Shay. I think it was just, you know, his fear of being like his father, or maybe even his fear of not being an adequate partner for anyone. This is definitely a 5-star read for sure. The spice definitely felt earned. Trust me, you will earn it, because there is a lot of angst and a lot of yearning, and it will definitely play with your emotions, but it is definitely worth the read. I really, really love this book and I highly recommend. All right, bookworms, those are my first 4 recommendations. I honestly just realized I had a lot more to say than I initially expected. So instead of rushing through the rest of the recommendations that I do have, I figured I'd just split this video into 2 parts. Part 2 will be up soon with 4 more books you won't want to miss. Please feel free to drop down in the comments and let me know what you guys think. Did you agree with some of the takes that I have? Have you read any of these books? Did anything I say kind of pique your interest? If you'd like to join the Book Hangover Club, please feel free to subscribe. And like I said, I'll catch you guys in the next video.